Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Daytime Divas Season 1, Episode 2, which was titled Coma Bump. Okay guys, this show is so good, but it is all over the place and there is so much going on, so I hope I can give you guys this recap without me sounding crazy. But these women on this show and these storylines are just all over the place, but I'm here for it all because the acting is really good. And that dang on Tashina Arnold, I don't care what she plays in, she sets it off. And I think in my recap from the series premiere, I said I didn't know if she was, if Tashina's character was Joy Behar or Rosie O'Donnell, but I totally forgot about Miss Whoopi Goldberg being on that show, and that Whoopi pretty much took over when Barbara Walters left the show. So I'm thinking that Mo's character is actually supposed to be Whoopi Goldberg, who's also a comedian. So anyway, let's get started. So they're giving Maxine this tribute on the show, but it sounds like it's an obituary because they're like talking about her in past tense, and they're like going over the family line. So we learned that Sean, who's her son, but he was actually adopted, and then Maxine was married, but her husband died or some mysterious death or something. And so Maxine is at home and she's riding on her treadmill, but she's talking to Sean, because he's the producer of the show. And so she's listening to this dang on I don't know what they want to call. They said they was honoring her, but like I said, it sounds like an obituary to me. So then Heather, who's the white one with the blonde hair, so Heather decides that she wants to sing this song as a tribute to Maxine, and then Maxine was like, go to commercial. So as soon as she got like the first 2 or 3 lines out, they went to commercial and cut her off. And so Sean lets Maxine know that the network president is looking for a guest host. And so Maxine, she's like all throwing all kind of shade and everything, and saying that, they don't need that. But, Sean is letting them know that, he really doesn't have any say-so in the matter. So he starts throwing out names. And so he says Tyra Banks, and Maxine was like, no, she can't come on there. And then he said Ann Coulter, and she was like, no, it has to be a woman. And I'm just like, how you gonna shade Ann like that? So then he says Michelle Obama, and when I tell you Maxine flew off that doggone treadmill like, oh, hell to the dog, y'all not about to bring Michelle Obama on this show and I lose my job. So then they go back to the studio. So during break, the women are complaining about Leon and how he's not doing what he's supposed to do and he's messing up. And then Mo is like countering with jokes, everything that they say, she has an answer for it. So I think it was Kibby who finally said, well, you sure are, very protective of him. You sure you not tapping that? Of course, Mo was like brushing it off like it wasn't happening. But I'm like, girl, you're so obvious, because anybody else would have fired him by now. And the way that Mo is, she definitely would have fired him unless she didn't have some kind of connection going on with him. So back on the air, Heather decides she's going to sing her song afterwards. So she gets up and she has the microphone and she's getting ready to sing. And so she barely has like the first lyric out when Maxine jumps up and she's like up in the balcony of the audience, or like on the top row of the audience. And she goes, it's good to be back. So everybody's looking like, what the hell just happened? And after the show, Maxine calls Kibby back, into her office to get the scoop and find out, what's been happening while she's been gone. So Kibby is trying to tell her, about her messing up with the drugs and the police coming, and she may have jeopardized her probation. And she's thinking that Maxine already knows, but what Maxine is really trying to find out is what was the other women talking about, what were they saying about her. So when she realizes that, Kibby doesn't have any dirt to give her, she tells her, well, just sit here for another 5 minutes, because I know the other women are outside the door listening. And when you go out there, don't you say nothing, because they're going to be like hookers on Dollar Day trying to get the scoop. Oh my God, whoever the writers are, I mean, they're on it. They are on point. So then we have a scene where Sean confronts Nina about leaving her husband. So obviously Mr. Sean is strong and he is not being very realistic if he thinks that this woman is going to leave her husband, because her husband is like a politician in Washington and he's running for re-election. And so they got too much going on, Sean, for you to be trying to get in your feelings and tell this woman that she needs to leave her man, because it's not going to happen. So then Jason, the network president, he stops by to talk ratings to Maxine and let her know that, you know, her absence from the show gave the show like a second wind and the ratings are really high, and that he can't wait to see what the ratings for that day's show is, you know, because her coming back probably really pumped life into the show. But he's still talking about bringing in a co-host and telling her that, you know, we got to talk strategy and ride the momentum. But Maxine just politely escorted him right on out the door, and she did it just in time for Mo to grab his ear, because then she pulls him over. And when I tell you, Mo has the biggest butcher knife to stab Maxine in the back, and she's telling Jason, you know, to keep his eyes open and that Maxine is in serious trouble. And so Mo stays scheming, but I believe that she got to come up a little earlier in the morning to put one over on Miss Maxine. Then it's the next day, and Maxine comes in and she walks up to the other ladies as they're all standing around talking to Jason. So she already knows she can't trust them, you know, and she got to be on her A game or they're going to move her right on out the door. So they were supposed to have a surgeon on the show. And then the following week, Justin Timberlake was supposed to be on, but Mr. Leon, the executive production assistant, I think that's his new title, or senior production assistant, he has messed up the card. So then so then Mo realizes it and she calls out for him, but then she gets to thinking, let me switch the cards up. And then when Maxine comes out, you know, she'll read from these cards and mess everything up. So the brain surgeon comes out and takes his seat and everything, and Maxine takes the lead. And so she just starts talking all crazy and off the wall, because the questions that she's asking him were really for Justin Timberlake. And so that the guy, you know, he starts talking about the frontal lobe and some other stuff, and how pretty much saying that Maxine may have some brain damage going on. And so Maxine, you know, she kind of knows that something's not right and she's second guessing. And then the guy, you know, he keeps talking and everything, and all of a sudden Maxine just asked the man if he was gay. Just like so random and out of the blue. So I don't know if that was a question that they were going to ask Justin Timberlake or not, but the guy, he was like, well, I really don't like discussing my sexuality in public. So of course, you know, Sean goes to commercial break to save his mama from drowning. So Sean immediately knows that Mo had something to do with it. So he calls her, you know, into the office and asks her what's going on. And she blamed the mix up on Leon. So Sean tells her that, you know, Leon needs to go. But Mo is protesting again and saying, you know, give him another chance, and, you know, she'll make sure that he does what he's supposed to do. Then Sean goes in to talk to Maxine and let her know that the discussion has turned to her cutting back to 3 days a week instead of being there 5 days, and then they'll have the guest host the other 2 days. And he tells her that she can go shopping on her downtime if she needs something to occupy her time. And Maxine, ready with the shade, tells him that she'll go shopping when he finds a woman. But little does Maxine know he already got a woman, and she's up there on that stage with her. Then we move over to Kibby, and she's on the phone with her lady lover and telling her that, you know, she feels bad about deceiving Maxine. You know, Maxine has done so much for her and she wanted to tell her, but the lady lover is like, keep that mess to yourself. The woman just came out of a coma. She ain't got time to be dealing with your problems. You got to figure out something for yourself. So then Kibby goes into the dressing room, and her little sister is in the dressing room. So the mom has sent the little sister to beg for the money since Kibby told her she wasn't giving her any more money. So of course, you know, Kibby has a soft heart for her little sister, and she says that, you know, she'll give her the money, but let the mom know, you know, she can't be doing this. then Kibby walks in on Nina, who's hurling into the garbage can. So it turns out that Nina is pregnant, but she doesn't seem to be happy about it. Then I got to thinking, well, why is she not happy? Because her and her husband were going to the fertility clinic in the last episode. Then I was like, oh, light bulb time. The husband don't have enough sperm to make a baby, so she is pregnant by Sean. And then she tells Kibby that she's just now finding out that she's pregnant, and to keep it a secret and don't tell anybody. And I'm thinking, like, all y'all backstabbing women telling the other woman to keep it a secret and don't tell anybody, and then the minute things don't go your way, you spilling all the tea. So then Kibby leaves there and she goes to meet her mom for dinner, and she threatens to get custody of her sister, but the mom throws it up in her face about her drug history and her being on probation, and that no judge would ever, give her custody of the little sister. So then she leaves the mom, she's looking all hurt and defeated, and she leaves there and she's on the phone with the lady lover again, and then she walks in and finds the lady lover making love to a man. So I'm just like, poor Kibby, you can't catch a break, no way, no how. So then later that night, Nina convinces her husband that it will help his campaign if his wife is pregnant. And so she's telling him that she's found this perfect donor, and that it'll be a perfect match, and they'll work everything out because he's smart and educated and has a good career and all this stuff. So the husband's kind of reluctant at first, but then he gives in and tells her, she thinks she can fix everything and set everything up, then he'll go along with it. Then the next day when she's at the studio, Sean pulled her aside, and he's on her again about, breaking up with the husband. So then she decides to go ahead and tell him that she's pregnant, but he's got to be patient and let her work it out, how she's going to deal with the husband and get him to understand, but her main thing is she's got to get him through this election and make sure that he wins the election. But I think that Nina and her husband are setting Sean up. For some reason, I think it's going to turn out to be a big setup with those two. Then we move on to Heather, and Heather arrives home an hour late, and she's totally forgotten that she was supposed to go to dinner with her husband to celebrate some promotion or some accomplishment that he's had. So Heather has this black maid or housekeeper, and I can't figure out if she reminds me of Gertrude from the movie Get Out, or if she reminds me of Gabrielle, who played this Haitian maid on the TV show American Crime in their third season. Or maybe she's just a combination of both of them. But anyway, Heather came in and the maid was at the kitchen sink, and I don't even think she turned around and said, hey, cat, dog, how you doing, or anything. So Heather has a little boy and a little girl, but the little boy, I guess, has like some feminine tendencies about him, and the husband doesn't seem to be, too happy about having this potentially gay son. So he's yelling at Heather and telling her she's selfish and self-absorbed, and she only remembers, designer clothes and the television show and celebrities and all this other stuff, that she never thinks about him. So then she tells the maid, and her name is something like Arville or Arabella or something like that, tells her to get the kids and take them to look at TV or something. So there was just her and the husband. She like pulls him to the side and tells him that, before he gets started, that the women on the show and at her job are starting to notice the bruises on her, so to be careful. And I'm thinking, like, how's somebody beating you behind and you telling them to be careful? Like, that don't even make any kind of sense whatsoever. So then the next day when she's at the studio, she has on this robe, and she's talking to, I guess it was like one of the wardrobe designers, and the back of the robe, it was a little short robe, and it's like hitched up and caught in her underwear. And so Maxine turns around and she sees this big old massive black bruise on the back of her thigh. And when she goes over to talk to Heather about it, Heather pulls the robe down and tell her that it's nothing. So Maxine goes on about her business. Why do we find out at the end of the show? Because she comes in and she was talking to the son about it was too hot to put on foundation and about clogging his pores and stuff. And so the husband is getting on her about, talking to the son about makeup and how that isn't normal. So she calls the maid or the housekeeper or the nanny or whatever she is, or the all-in-one, to come in and get the kids and take them out again. So she closes the door, and then she tells the husband to get the book, and then she gets a paddle, and then they go on the sofa, and then they open the book up to some scripture in Ephesians where it talks about wives submit to your husband. So he's sitting on the sofa with the paddle, and then she lay across him, and she's reading the scriptures as he's spanking her on her behind with this paddle. Just like, y'all freak nasty. Just freak nasty. How you let a man beat on you to the point where you black and blue from bruises, all for some kind of sexual fulfillment? Like, that is just, whew. I bet y'all there's some stuff going on in Hollywood that we just can't even imagine. So when they're in the studio the following day, Mo, she gets full of herself and decides that she's going to let Maxine know that she has copies of her medical records and threatens to leak them. And then Maxine is like, girl, please, all I need you to do is stay out my seat, but Mo, all up in her business. I'm like, girl, why you show your hand? You showed it too soon. You ain't think this thing through. So when they get on air, Maxine decides to call Mo's bluff. So she reveals to the audience that she wasn't having surgery on her throat, that she was actually getting plastic surgery. And she says that she succumbed to the pressure of being an aging woman, in Hollywood, and that she decided to do this cosmetic surgery where she was getting an eyebrow lift or something. So she says that she thanks God that the anesthesia caused her to go into a coma, because now that she has been given this second chance, that she is going to do what she's always done, which is to age naturally and gracefully, and that she plans on being on air 5 days a week, guiding the women of the world along and embracing who they are and their beauty and not succumbing to peer pressure. So not only did she get Mo, but she also got Jason, because he was there, and by putting out there that she's gonna be there 5 days a week, now she got the audience in her corner. So if they try to bring in the guest host, then I guess the audience would turn on Jason and say that he was being mean to Maxine because she's getting older and all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. So then Sean told Mo that if she wanted to keep Leon, that she had to supervise him. So then we have this scene where they're at the supply store and they're going back and forth at it. They're in the parking lot loading the stuff in the back of the van. So then she tells Leon that he's been demoted from the executive production assistant role, and they were giving it back to the girl who had it before. But Leon said he really doesn't care because he wants to be a show producer. He got some great ideas for topics that they could talk about. And so Mo was like, you millennials, y'all just all over the place. But I guess it turned her on because then next thing I know, they was climbing into the back of the minivan to get busy in broad daylight in the parking lot. I'm just like, oh my God, this show is so crazy. So then the show ends with Maxine, and she's going home for the evening, and somebody had given her a bouquet of lilies. And so she has this black doorman, an older black gentleman who's the doorman at the condos where she live at. So he's going to walk her upstairs and help her get everything into her room. So then they get inside and he puts the lilies down, and then the next thing we know, these two busting slob like in the world. So Sean obviously don't know that his mama got a boo thing on the side. And then it goes back down to the lobby, and this lady comes in and she pays the concierge off who's at the front desk and tells him that she want to ask a few questions. And he's like, well, our residents need their privacy. So she starts slipping him $100 bills. So I guess he's ready to talk, and look like on the previews for next week, this lady is actually writing a tell-all book about Maxine, and she's somebody from her past. So the show just seems to be getting gooder and gooder and better and better. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I left anything out or got anything wrong. Leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel. And I shall talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.